All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. It is 5:05, and we're going to reconvene the Board of County Commission meeting. This is a public hearing, and today's purpose is to set the millage rate in the county budget for fiscal year 24-25. Julianne, do you have that? Do you want that?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you, Chairman. As we have been talking about for months, this is the final budget hearing for your 25 fiscal year. All of the board initiatives as well as staff brought and board approved initiatives have been incorporated into your 25 budget. Your constitutional officers all receive an increase. There's a 3% COLA for BOCC employees, along with a 20% increase to the employee and the employer portions of health insurance. Funds from the 23 true-up are reflected. We've created the St. John's Harbor Water Plant Fund. We've added one additional FTE for the water utilities. We've included the fiscal year 25 approved capital, and we've included the fiscal year 24 carried forward capital. The millage rates remain the same as they were last year, and the total countywide budget, inclusive of all funding sources, is $280 million. At that, I will turn it over for you for any questions that you may have of me.
Any questions for Julianne? Commissioner Wilkinson.
Thank you for that. I just have a question. I have said all along that I would like to see a larger increase for our employees since we did the 20% increase on the health insurance. So at a 4% increase that we had talked about before, if we were to do that off of the holdback, and I don't know if I've got the votes, I'm just asking questions. If we did that off of the remaining holdback, we wouldn't have to change the budget, is that correct?
So we would do a budget amendment, but your overall bottom line dollars wouldn't change.
Okay.
Right, because that's in operating. Actually, I think we stuck it in a capital line for you guys. So we would simply move personnel dollars around. But so the budget itself would change minorly, but your bottom dollars wouldn't have no impact.
Okay, that was just my question. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
You do? Mr. Turner?
And I appreciate the fact that we want to give our employees as much as we can. I truly do. But if you look what we've done for them just this year, we spent $1 million on People One, or possibly a liability of that, to give them better health insurance. We only raised their premium 20%, where it went up on the county's end a lot more than that, and we ate all that. So we put $1 million in health, 1.8 million, Julianne, that we put in health insurance to shore it up this year.
Roughly, don't quote me on it.
I know it's hard for y'all to talk specific numbers, but roughly. So we put 1.8 million, and we're only going to get a fraction of that back on the 20% increase. So, you know, I just don't want everybody to think that I'm not concerned. I wish we could pay them 20% more. I truly do. But in the reality of it is, with us taking that big of a bite out of the health insurance like we did this year, I just don't see how we can give them any more than what the state's given theirs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Adams, that?
Yeah, just like I said the first budget meeting, the health insurance only affects a small, well, not a small portion, but a portion of the employees, where pay affects every employee. I believe that there's room in the budget, especially if we keep the millage where it is, which I'm against that altogether, but I'm not going to go into the whole thing because I've been doing that for 3 years and got nowhere with it. But I do believe if you keep the millage the same, there absolutely is room to go even as high as 5% for the employees. So I don't think that hurts the county in any way. I think it benefits our employees. It benefits our ability to retain employees. I think overall, I think that's where we should go. I don't know that we have the votes or we don't have the votes, but I think the budget should include a 5% raise for all employees.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'm going to follow up with that. So doing a little bit of investigative work, which is what I love to do, the property appraiser is paying all of the insurance increase for both on the employee and employer side. The sheriff's office is giving a 5% increase to their staff, and also taking the brunt of the insurance increase. The tax collector is fee-based, so there would be no increase in her budget if we were to be able to move forward with an increase to our staff. And both the clerk of courts and supervisor of elections both have in their appropriated amount that we allowed them enough to go up to I was going to the 4.1%, Mr. Adams Act, but I originally was at 5% with you. An employee who works at $15 an hour, a 3% raise, which I'm glad they're at least getting something, equates to $18 a week. That's $936 a year. A person at a $15 an hour rate at a 4% increase is 60 cents an hour, which is $1,248. So we give our employees, and I understand where Commissioner Turner is coming from, but when we give our employees $18 a week, that's $72 a month, and then we take back $30 for insurance. That's a $10 a week. We gave them a hamburger. We have this, I don't know that next year we're going to have an opportunity to give them the raise because we have no idea what the economy is going to be like. We've increased our budget by 11%, and we have $369,694 sitting in the holdback, the BOCC's holdback. Even if we gave them a 4% raise, we would only need a little bit less than $138,000. So we would still have a balance in the holdback of $322,000. So there's money in the general fund without taking it out of reserves, without doing anything. And, you know, it's like I said before, I feel like we got to keep our employees and retain them. We train them, and then if they're constantly changing hands and moving on, it costs us more money in the long run. And if the other constitutionals can do it, I feel like this is our only time that we could do that, because I have no idea what next year is going to bring with the economy. So that's where I'm at, open for discussion. I'll be glad to make a motion whenever.
So let me ask you this, because I feel like Commissioner Turner, you know, we did do a lot of, we ate that money. When I say we ate it, we absorbed that money for People One. We absorbed that money for the health insurance increase, and we didn't have to do that out of our 20% holdback, but we did to avoid that. And I understand, Mr. Adams, that insurance only affects the people that have it, and pay affects everybody. But it's still not a lot of money left for us. And again, we took, before we ever saw the 20% holdback, $1 million went to transportation to make that whole. And I mean, that helps all the citizens of Putnam. I think this budget did a lot for everybody, and I think we have done a lot for everybody. But I can't see spending all that holdback when we don't know what's going to happen next year. And this is going to be reoccurring from this point on. So I've been in this position when layoffs happened, and, you know, if the economy does go south, but we can always go up we don't have to go up now. We can go up anytime we want to go up. We're able to do all kinds of things, but I just don't see I could give the 138, but I might be able to do something different. Mr. Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing we need to keep in mind is that we went up to $15 an hour years before we had to. That money, if we put it in there, it becomes a reoccurring expense. You may want to keep some of that holdback money for problems that are going to pop up next year that you can't see coming, that we've had to use that money for in previous years. And the constitutionals may decide to spend some of their money, but it's still our money we give them. So I'm just saying they might decide to take part of their budget. We can't do anything about that, but it's still our money that we're giving them. So I just, I wish we could do more, but I just can't vote for any more than we've already done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Adams?
So your pay increase is only recurring if you are able to keep your employees. So if you can't keep your employees, it goes back to whatever the hiring level is for that pay grade. The goal is to keep your employees, whether it's in a private industry or a county or a city or the federal government, The goal is to keep your employees by trying to be competitive in a pay wage. We know we're not competitive in a pay wage overall because we just can't afford to be competitive and go right to where all of our neighboring counties are. And that's really across the board in almost every position we have. So where we have an opportunity to potentially keep the people that choose to stay here because a lot of them grew up here or live here. So that's the reason why we retain a lot of our employees that we retain long term is simply because they're from here and they believe in what we're doing for this community. The only way that you retain them is by keeping them whole and at least on pace with inflation, if not exceeding it by 1 or 2%. 4.1 puts us at inflation with what's happened in the last couple of months before where we were at the first meeting. First meeting, 3% put us right at it. Now it's 4-point-something%. So we're below inflation. So that means if someone gets a 3% raise, they're losing money. And then on top of that, their amount for their insurance has increased. So our only way to retain people is we're not going to pay them competitively. We're not going to go to $56,000 to start a firefighter EMS like some of the neighboring counties are at. But if we take our people that are at 40 and we give them to 44, they're less likely to go next door and drive that extra 10 miles because they love this community and they love this county and they love this community, which is the only reason why the majority of our employees are here, that are here long term, is because they love what they're doing for their community. It has nothing to do with because they have a job, because the job 20 miles away pays more for doing the same work. So they're only here because they love this community. And if we don't do something to keep those people, we're failing as a commission. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, my only point about bringing this up, and you're right, we can talk about it later, but since we're discussing this and this is part of the agenda item and it talks about the 3% COLA, is, a 4.1% increase does put him with the economy right now with, what did you just say? I'm sorry, I've got a head cold. Paul? 4.1. Yeah, 4.1. Yeah, so, I was standing in line at the store the other day, and this is another reason why it made me want to bring this up again. I was standing in line at the store, and the lady in front of me said, we were talking about the economy, and she goes, yeah, she says, my son works at the county. She had no idea who I was. She said, my son works at the county, works 410s, and she said, he literally works 7 days a week. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, he has to work all the three days he would be off from the county, he works mowing grass so he can make a decent living. And I know that's 1% isn't going to make that difference, but maybe it could make a little bit of difference in our staffs. And it's only $138,000. That's all it is out of the general fund. I'm not asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's less than 150. It's $138,000 out of the general fund is the difference between 3% to 4%. With that, I make a motion that we give our staff a 4% raise.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say, we had this discussion for the last 8 years. For the first couple of years, I don't know if we gave anybody a raise. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I do think that we have consistently tried to continue to raise with also balancing the budget with all the different issues that we have. I think 3. Would I like to do 4 and 5? Yes. But with everything else I think we've done over the last few years and what we've done this year, I'm not going to support this.
Mr. Adams, that you have the floor.
We're getting ready to see unprecedented growth in Putnam County from a building perspective, from state projects, from other things. Now, whether that happens next year or in the next 5 years, we already saw, and I've only been here 4 years, so we've already seen where just when we did the expansion of Highway 20, we had people leave working for Public Works to go work for the contractors that were building Highway 20, and a lot of them still do today because they're getting paid 60, 70 grand. They do have to travel all over the state. It's a pain in the ass. Don't get me wrong. It's a pain for them compared to working here in their community. But they're getting paid considerably more, and it's worth it to them to do that. And that was some of our best people, right? Now we've replaced some of them people that are really good with even better people in some cases. I just don't want to see where the flashiness of a big company that comes in and starts doing work here whether it's Bass Pro or it's one of these developers or it's the state contractors or even contractors that we hire to come in here, draws our people away because we're counting on a friends and family discount. That's really what we're doing. This county, and it's not just the 4 years I've been here, the county's been doing, think about the 10 years that no one got raises. Those people that stayed through that time literally were the friends and family plan. Because who in the right mind does that unless you just love your community? And this isn't a not-for-profit, right? People aren't here volunteering. They're here giving of their time for wages in order to move their lives forward along with the community's lives forward. And if we can't compensate that, it's sad. I don't know how else to put it. Thank you.
Mr. Turner?
Me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One thing that I've learned in my life is you can't bet on what you think might happen next year. And if we start budgeting for what we think might, could, or would happen next year, then we have lost it. We've got to budget on the numbers in front of us that we know would happen. It hasn't been that long ago when we had an economic turn down and we had Mariposa coming, we had River Place coming, we had all these subdivisions already passed and ready to go, and all of them just went away. State bought the one out there at Etnire. I'm just telling you, that was approved. So I'm just saying, you can't bet on what might come next year. You need to wait until the thing is at least really here. So I just can't raise the reoccurring expenses higher than what we've already raised them to this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Adamczyk.
That's an interesting twist on my point. The point is, whether they come or not, we still can't be holding people to a friends and family discount and expect them to continue if they have greener pasture somewhere else. And they already have greener pasture in every county that touches this county. So it don't matter what part of the county you live in, you could drive 20 minutes and be to a job doing exactly what you're doing here. And I hate to say that publicly, but it's a fact, and we're trying to get something, I'm trying to get something that helps them stay here. We're going to run out of people that meet the qualifications that we have for our entry-level jobs and our even senior level jobs in this community because we're growing. So whether this has nothing to do with our county budget, our budget, we know today, if you're talking about not going in the future, we know today's budget, we have enough money to give them 4% raise. We know that today for this year. We know that looking at the numbers. It's obvious. We could give them an 8% raise, really, if we really wanted to stretch it. That, I think, would be my limit. But if we stay at the millage where it is. Now, if we lower the millage to the rollback rate, I would say 3% is where the most we can get. But we're not rolling back at all. Without rolling back at all, we're increasing 11% the taxes for the whole community, and we're giving the same people, they pay taxes too, we're giving them 3%. That's just, the budget of today is what it is, and there's more than enough room to give a 4% raise.
All right, debate's over, and all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Aye. So we'll move on. So now we need a motion to pass a resolution adopting the final millage. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. We do have it's a public hearing, and I apologize. And yes, Ms. Ashley, you got a card? Thank you. We do want to open it up for our public to be able to. Ms. Nancy Taylor, if you'll come up and state your name and address for the record, please. But you have to do that. You're not an offender at all, Ms.
Okay, Nancy Taylor, Crescent City. I know that this is already a done deal, but I'm going to say my little spiel anyway. So please don't raise the taxes on Putnam County property owners. Surrency's $300 million bond has already put 3 generations of Putnam County property owners in debt. Some will lose their property because they can't afford to pay the exorbitant tax increase due to this bond. My property taxes, and this is not my homestead, my property taxes increased 50% from 2022 to 2023, and from 2020 to 2023, they went up 97%, property taxes. Please don't raise our taxes again. Find another way that is fair to an entire county and doesn't affect only a certain part of the population. Everyone should have to pay a share and not just property owners alone. Use an increase in the sales tax so that the burden of the budget increases on all of us and not just the property owners. Why do you think that every time you need more money, the property owners must pay for it? I realize that it's legal via the statutes, but why do you think it's okay that a subset of the population pay for the service used and enjoyed by all? And what are you doing with a budget of $280 million anyway? How can you possibly be $10 million short? That is really outrageous for a county such as Putnam. Assuming that there are 77,000 people in the county, that is $3,600 per person. Outrageous. Please don't go to the property owners to pay for your deficit. Find a way that is equitable to all citizens. Oh, and you might want to consult with Crescent City because they didn't spend all their money that was budget in cutting their millage rate for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Anybody else in the public would like to speak? Anybody else? Okay, we'll close public comment. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I'll make the motion that we pass the resolution adopting the final millage rate fiscal year 24-25. Is that correct? A, B, and C. The fiscal year 2025 Putnam County-wide operating millage budget of 8.8441 mils, which is the same as last year's millage rate, but 11.16% higher than the rollback rate of 7.9559 mils. The fiscal year 24-25 Putnam County non-countywide operating millage rate for the fire tax unit, municipal services taxes unit, MSTU, is 1.100 mils, which is the same as last year's millage rate. The rate is 11.31% higher than the rollback rate of 0.9882 mils. Together, the aggregate millage is 9.8164 mils, which is 11.29% higher than the aggregate rollback rate of 8.8208 mils.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the first motion? Mr. Adams-Zack?
I will not be supporting this because I don't support raising taxes. And usually we don't have a member of the audience, so I figured I would say it out loud. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any further comments? All in favor? I'm sorry? Would you do, Ms. Ashley, will you do roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I thought she called you.
No.
Yes. Okay. We have a second motion that needs to be made.
Mr. Chair, may move to adopt the fiscal year 2024-25 budget, all funds.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, roll call vote. Ms. Ashley?
Yes.
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 No.
Yes. And now we have the third and final motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval to adopt the final fiscal year 2024-25 capital improvement plan.
You have a second?
Second.
Have a proper second. Any further
I
discussion?
have discussion.
Mr. Turner, you have the floor.
I think that when the new commissioners get here, they need to revisit this. I really do. I realize that it's not a tremendous amount of money, but it is a lot of money. The total, with the $48 million that was a carry forward from previous year to 25, and the $11 million that was added for 25, even though only a portion of that is coming out of reserves next year. What I foresee happening next year is that let me back up a little. It was my understanding, and maybe that was my misunderstanding, that what we were doing is we were passing a possibilities plan, for lack of a better term, that we were going to, that all the different things that are on the list in the capital improvement plan, whether it be two more vehicles or two vehicles that need to be replaced for a department or another vehicle for a different department, I thought we had the discussion that this was contingent. It was contingent upon the new commission moving forward and making these commitments for next year out of their reserve monies for their capital improvements. My biggest problem that I'm having here is that I feel like that I'm spending money for next year's commission and I'm not going to be here. If that doesn't bother the two of you, then I can get along with it, but it bothers me. I'm telling you right now, it bothers me. I really think that when we approve the capital improvements plan as it reads right now, that, and I'm not picking on JR's fire trucks, but if we've got a fire truck in there, we've got different, for almost every department's got something in there, and I'm not saying it's not needed, but it needs to be decided on next year by the commissioners if that particular item is needed, especially if we have an economic turn down. So, and I hope we don't. And if the money's still at the same level that it is right now without bad projections, then it may be that it's fine, that it'll all work out. But I have a trouble sitting here in September of this year trying to figure out what's going to be going on in July of next year or August of next year. And it's the budget, when the request comes before the commission next year, it's going to come to the commission, yeah, we want these 2 trucks, and they're in your budget. They were approved in your budget. So the commission's not going to really look at them very hard at all because they were included in the budget. So, if I'm the only one that's concerned about this, I'm not concerned to the point that if y'all aren't concerned that I won't go along with it. I just think that needed to be said and it needed to be discussed. I really did. So,
Thank you,
well,
Mr. Turner. Mr. Adams, that?
Yeah, I can see a little bit of what you're saying, but the bottom line is they have the final say. I mean, each of these things, if they choose just made, that truck that you're talking about may come in higher cost than what we budget for, and they may say no. I mean, all these things go through appropriation, and they're going to come before the commission again. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I think we're actually required by law to have a capital budget, so I think we have to vote yes or no based on what we have in front of us, and you have to allocate that money by law. So,
Mr. Chairman, we're required by law to have a capital improvements plan. We're not required by law to budget the capital improvements for next year.
Mr. Pickens?
I may be missing something, but I thought that we would approve a capital improvement plan, and then as these items would be, I guess, prioritized, moved to the board, the next board, whether it would be us or somebody else, to be able to be determined whether they're going to move those forward and expend those particular funds.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's what I thought too.
And they will.
But the new board will do that. And that board will be able to make that decision. We're just approving.
Well, unless I'm misunderstanding, Julianne helped me out here, because unless I understand what you just told me before the meeting, is this is budgeted. Once we approve this plan today, it's budgeted money. So that means that if somebody wants a truck or whatever's on the list, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but just if somebody wants to replace a truck, then they're going to go out and get a price for the 2 new trucks for building and zoning, and they're going to bring them to the board and say these were in the capital improvement plan that you've already approved, and it's coming for you for final approval, but it's already budgeted and it's already been approved. Now, did I misunderstand what you told me before the meeting?
Commissioners, the capital improvement plan that is included in your packet is required by law for the board to have a capital improvement plan. It is required by law to have a 5-year one. As we discussed at the workshop where we outlined and detailed each of the capital requests in August, the only commitments you are making is the fiscal year 25 section. Those future years are projections only. The motion you just made approving the budget with the budget summary includes 100% of that fiscal year 25 capital incorporated into the proper budget lines. The capital is budgeted as of today, as of the motion that just passed. When we spoke about this capital improvement plan at the August workshop, a number of those items are with new revenue sources dedicated specifically to them. If you'll remember, BPP, 70% of it goes between dirt to pave and resurfacing as the board directed. We have debt payments there. The remaining items, as the board directed, was split between Georgetown and Duns Creek. That's the 25 budget capital for BPP. The resurfacing dollars come in from a gas tax. They go to the resurfacing capital project. Those items that are coming from general fund reserves, we reviewed at that meeting. Those are your general fund capital purchases. Those are your transportation fund capital purchases. The minimum that are needed, because the transportation fund is already $1.9 million in the hole, so it comes from the general fund, and your East Putnam Water Fund. All of them have necessary capital that is going to be required to keep those operations being sustained. At that meeting in August, the board approved the plan. It was incorporated into the budget as we reviewed at the September tentative budget hearing and as presented to you and advertised to DOR today. Years 26, the remaining 5 years, that's all tentative projections. But you passed by motion at those meetings your approval of the 25 plan. This is simply adding to what you approved on that date, the final fiscal year 24 carry forward projects. It's the only amendments that have been made to that document since your last approval. And the numbers have been incorporated into the budget.
All right, any further discussion? Ms. Ashley, if you'll take a roll call vote on that. We already have a motion and a second, so.
Yes.
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 Yes. Is there any further business to come before this? Mr. Suggs, you have something about the upcoming hurricane?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you know, we've been monitoring the storm that's brewing out there in the Gulf. And earlier today, Putnam County was included in the governor's executive order, naming Putnam County as one of the counties in the EO. So what we've are bringing here, I'm going to need to ask if we can have an emergency item added to the agenda to discuss a local state of emergency document that we need to discuss for this pending storm that we're fixing to be dealing with starting tomorrow.
Does anybody have an objection to adding that? Okay, go right ahead, sir.
Okay, so, and that's what I need. If I could just get, Mr. Chairman, the board to make a motion to adopt the resolution for the local state of emergency as of today, then we will go ahead and have further discussion on what we're planning on doing with the EOC beginning tomorrow.
Emergency item is to pass a resolution for,
And I can read it by title if you'd
yeah,
like.
please do,
Yes,
sir.
Tropical storm, Helene, local state of emergency. A resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, declaring a state of local emergency due to Tropical Storm Helene, adopting Executive Order 24-209, issued by the Governor of Florida pursuant to Chapter 252 Florida Statutes and Putnam County Ordinances, Article 2, specifically Sections 16 through 19 through 16 through 16-19 through 16-26, and providing for an effective date.
We need a
Move
motion.
approval.
Thank you.
Yep.
Proper motion by Mr. Turner, proper second by Ms. Wilkinson, Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion on the motion to pass a resolution for emergency order? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose like sign, the ayes have it. Mr. Suggs and Mr. Grimes, you still have the floor.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'll go ahead and turn this over to Mr. Grimes for an update, and then we'll talk about the hours of operations moving forward, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time.
So I'm sure all your guys' phones went off at the 5 o'clock weather update that we are now into the tropical storm watch moving forward. So we've met with the online today at 1:30 with the partners also in the room. We're going to open a special needs shelter tomorrow because that tends to take a little bit longer than getting the general population up. And we'll make a decision on general population tomorrow morning at 8:30. We thought we'd have a little bit more information this afternoon, but that storm did kind of stall down just a little bit. It still has not got out to the Gulf. That's truly the worry is what is it going to do when it gets in the Gulf? We know it's going to be large. They're expecting the wind fields, as of yesterday, to be up to 250 miles, 125 on each side. So if that thing comes anywhere close to the Nature Coast or the Big Bend, we're going to see some kind of effects of it. So we're going to open, I'm trying to get all my numbers remembered. We're going to open the shelters tomorrow afternoon after the school releases. We're going to send DOH over and start the transition into the special needs at Kelly Smith. Should be able to open those up around 6 p.m. tomorrow night. And then we'll make the general population call tomorrow morning to tell everybody what time, if we're going to end up sheltering the general pop. So the school district has closed schools for Thursday. We're going to watch Friday because it appears like it's going to be a quick moving storm, but we're going to have to make sure all the roadways and bus routes and all that stuff are open for Friday in order for them to open school on Friday. But as of right now, they've closed schools on Thursday for us to get prepared for sheltering, Thursday morning on into the all-day Thursday. So the earliest expected time of arrival was 8 a.m. on Thursday. The most likely arrival is 8 p.m. Thursday. So unless something happens drastic tomorrow, but we'll have tomorrow, if we need to make any last-minute adjustments in the schedule, we can do.
Yeah, I thought it slowed down. I thought it's already slowed down, and so I don't know they're gonna be able to have school on Friday. I mean, if that thing doesn't hit till 8 o'clock, you're not gonna be able to get your crews out, clear roads, and even assess the situation by your emergency team that has to go out and look at things first. I don't see how you can get that done by Friday morning.
I don't either, but that was the school district's call that they didn't want to cancel school for Friday until they saw something on Thursday. So,
Will you address the garbage pickup?
yes, sir. I'm sorry, I should have done that. So the landfill's going to close on Thursday, and hopefully we can get them out on Friday. So we'd asked for the garbage not to go out on Thursday so they could pick Thursdays up. I think it is. Is it on Saturday, Mr. Suggs, that they make up the route?
If they close down on Thursday but are picking up on Friday, they would move the Thursday route to Friday and the Friday route to Saturday.
Okay.
So the landfill will be closed all day Thursday?
Yes, sir.
And no shelter in South Putnam.
We will. If we decide, we're going to try to watch tomorrow's storms. We know when to open a shelter because it did stall a little bit right there around the Yucatan today. So if we open general populations, we talked about it because Brownie Pierce, we'll open them all, and then if it doesn't seem like we're going to need them all, we can start phasing them down slowly, because like last time we had one person shelter at QI Roberts, and we just moved them to Jenkins. We were able to just go ahead and shut that one down. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see. The school district, we tried to bring in a couple at one time, but they said it was easier to bring them down than what it was to bring them up. So we'll start with them all up and then bring them down as needed. So if we do go general population, all of the county shelters will be open. The same as usual. And if we need to on air, it's Middleton Bernie, Brownie Pierce, Kelly Smith, Jenkins Elementary School in Interlochen, Aquilla, and QI Roberts. Also, the sandbag locations will be up and running today by 5 p.m. It's probably up and running now. And they're self-service at this point. So that operation is up and running.
And I see that you added Penile again.
Yeah, yes, sir. We got Penile there as the one because we had it open for the recent rain, but there's still bags available at Penile and Sand. But if there is anything, and this call center will come up tomorrow, we're going to try to get the call center up and running sometime with the noontime tomorrow because we're already receiving calls from the community wanting directions. So we're going to get the library staff in there tomorrow right around noontime, get that call center propped up, and that'd be the 386-329. 1904. It's too many numbers, but yes, sir. So that'll start up and running about noontime tomorrow, and then we'll bring the rest of the EOC folks in sometime tomorrow night, roughly about the same time as the shelter opens up. We're going to bring a crew in to get because we really need to be inside the EOC when we have shelters open in case something's needed at the shelter, but the rest of the staff will come in following that.
What level are you going to open up to at what time, or do you know yet?
We'll be at a level 2 tomorrow at noontime, and then we'll probably go to a full activation of a 1 following probably 8 o'clock tomorrow night throughout the duration, and then we'll ramp it down as fast as we can.
Level 1 is when you bring in all your ESE stations all into everywhere?
Yes, sir. And right now, Fire Rescue, Chief Back and Chief Hitchcock have worked up a plan not to bring them all in at one time. It's kind of doing like an Alpha Bravo shift where we'll hold one shift over for tomorrow and then be able to send them home and then bring one shift in that was normally at home and then the second shift will cover for them, so that way they do get a little chance to try to get their family lives prepped and all that kind of stuff. So we're not trying to bring them all in at once. We'll stagger them in over time and not have to have the full crews here all at once.
Mr. Suggs, you have, talk about our hours?
Yes, sir. As we discussed earlier while we were at the Emergency Operations Center, with us going to a Level 2 activation at noon tomorrow, bringing staff in to man that, and then again going to Level 1 tomorrow evening. So we'll have that 24 hours. Operations moving at that time. And with the storm, the information we received this morning that the storm, the earliest it would hit would be sometime early Thursday morning. We look to get staff out tomorrow afternoon around 3. That way they can go home and get their stuff prepared. And then those that have to come back that night will have an opportunity to go home and get things taken care of and come back for the overnight shift. And then we'll certainly will be closed Thursday and most likely Friday as well. Because if this thing does come in anytime between Thursday and Friday, we're going to be out there doing storm damage and road assessment, and we'll have to keep the EOC activated until after all that is taken care of. So I look to close sometime around 3 tomorrow and reopen Monday.
Could we be sure that we put a sign on the door that says, call the 1904 number or whatever it is? Because in previous instances, we've had people come up here and we missed it one day and they just didn't know what to do and got all excited. So if we could put a sign on the door that says, if you have any issues whatsoever, please call this number.
We'll make sure it's on all our doors here. Absolutely. That's a good point, Mr. Commissioner Turner. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for the explanation. And again, we do ask that our citizens take heed of that. When the 2 o'clock warning came out from the National Weather Service, you saw that the major hurricane dot moved down to Fort Myers area, if you will. So it was just up in the Big Bend area. So they are expecting it to do a lot more than.
Yeah, and it's just too much unexpected. And when I talked with the M folks earlier today, there's a time when it gets in the Gulf, it's going to move at 26 miles an hour. That's pretty quick. So that's the problem with this one is we don't have a lot of time. That's why we got to kind of make the decisions. And we have to err in the side of caution because, I mean, our job is to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah.
Well, if it gets as big as they say it's going to be, we could get tornadoes very easily over in the outer bands and what have you. So, I'm on board to being prepared. I truly am. And, and pray for the people in the Big Bend because they're calling for 12 to 14 foot storm surge in the Big Bend.
And those poor people just went through it.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh.
Some of them were fortunate that it didn't, Steenhatchee was 8 foot and it was devastating. Keaton Beach wasn't too bad because it was right in there where it didn't get pushed. They're talking now where it's possibility all that's going to go under almost double what it was.
Amazing.
Just getting over it, so.
All right. So is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.